What is going on, PTL family? I am Paul Lance, and I'm here with Leonard.
Good morning, Paul. It looks like it's going to be a fun day.
Is it the Paul and Leonard show or the Leonard and Paul show?
No, this is still the Brian Shapiro show. Unfortunately, he decided to go to the beach in San Diego instead of hang out with us, which, I can't understand. But I'm sure we have a bet, and we bet a McDonald's value meal that he would not call the show because he said he wasn't going to.
Sure.
So we do have a standing bet for today and tomorrow.
Now, rumor has it that Brian Shapiro he bought a couch. Now, I heard it was owned by J.D. Vance. Now, Brian, I'm not here to judge you or tell you how to live your life, but I'm just going to say this. Make sure that you're using protection if you're on that couch, okay? Because don't put a black light on it. That's all I'm going to say, Leonard.
Yeah, Brian didn't tell me about the couch. I think maybe you guys are closer than he and I. And he failed to mention, did it go with him on the vacation or does he leave it here?
Oof, I don't want to know. I'm hurting my ears. Oh, all right.
We're kidding about the couch. Don't get all obstreperous.
Can we start off with yesterday? Because I was on the flight when you guys were talking.
Yeah.
This country has been so normalized to what's happening. I mean, I'm so sick of thoughts and prayers, right? Thoughts and prayers. There's just nothing we can do. Let's look at something really quick, Leonard. I wrote down these stats from the website, okay? In 24, we had 41,028 people die of gun violence, 503 mass shootings. 23, 43,315, 660 mass shootings. 2022, 47,597, 642 mass shootings. And this goes on and on, Leonard, every single year.
By far the most violent and the most mass shootings of any country. No one's even close.
There's just nothing we can do, Leonard. There's nothing we can do. But you know what we can do? How many trans laws do you think we passed in the year 2025 in August? Take a guess.
0.
121. There's just nothing we can do about innocent children being murdered in schools because don't tread on me, but we're going to pick on the trans people.
Is that a comment in the super chat? Alexa Gibson says she wants in on the bet. She wants to bet $5, and thank you for your donation, that Brian will call in at some point. Okay. I'll take that bet.
Can we go to that clip really quick? I want to play this clip from Byron Donalds, who wants to kiss up to his orange Jesus so bad. It's pretty gross, and I want to talk about it because this is where the lost cause movement from the Civil War, the MAGA movement, has gone towards.
Congressman, liberals kind of rushed in to make their commentary. I guess everyone has a political view and a cultural view of this. But your friend Jen Psaki posted on X, when kids are getting shot at in their pews at a Catholic school mass and your crime plan is to have National Guard put mulch down around D.C., maybe you should rethink your strategy. Setting aside the fact that that's a run-on sentence and a non sequitur, what's your point about that?
Jen Psaki is a hack trying to make a political point. The reality is the tragedy that occurred today in Minneapolis is once again where the Democrats are ignoring some of the serious mental health challenges affecting young people in the United States, especially around gender identity, this transgender movement that they have fully gotten behind.
This transgender, what does that even mean? What is a transgender movement?
There's no transgender movement that people have gotten behind. Less than 1% of crimes have been committed by transgender people. And just so you know, I really like Jen Psaki, MSNBC, and she did a couple of segments on the shooting, and it was heartfelt, and she kind of looked like she was, her eyes were welling up, and she was displaying the one thing that MAGAs don't have. Because shady MAGAs do not have empathy. They don't care about other people. They only care about the orange god and making him happy. And I believe that they are trying to distract, but to use the fact that he was trans in a political moment when children have died, and some of them are still in the hospital, and one's still in critical condition.
It's horrible.
It's just inappropriate, and it's just more bootlicking, in my opinion.
You know, I want to take this back for a second because this is what's bothering me about this country. And when I first started doing social media a couple years ago, I started it because of white Christian nationalism, because that's what this is. Make America white again. It's the lost cause from the Civil War, the losers that just couldn't admit they lost, right? It wasn't about slavery, even though they clearly said it was. It was about freedom and patriotism. You know, what gets me, Leonard, is they're pro-life, right?
Well,
do they care?
Are they really pro-life? But go ahead.
Right, but do they care about the life of the 200,000 people I just mentioned? No.
No.
Do they care about the lives of the officers that have crushed vertebrae and PTSD and brain damage? Do they care about the life of Officer Sitnick or the 3 other officers that took their own lives? Did they care about the life of Amber Thurman because they took away her health care because she's so pro-life? They don't care about universal health care. They don't care about a living wage. They don't care about affordable housing, but they're pro-life. It sure seems, Leonard, that once the fetus comes out of the woman's body, they really don't care if it's shot into school, if it has food, if it has a house, if it has health care, and they sure in the hell don't care if it has clean water and air. What exactly is pro-life about evangelicals? Because maybe I'm just missing the point here.
Pro-life to them, who say they're pro-lifers, just means pro-birth. Once the child's born, they couldn't care less if they're fed, if, like you said, if they're housed, if they're taken care of, if they're safe, if they go to school where there's too many guns and too much violence. And, you know, let's be clear. We're talking to the conservative Republicans. The MAGAs are not going to cooperate on any level, on any kind of gun law or gun safety. But if there are some good conservative Republicans, you know, left in the world, and we need some common sense gun legislation, and I don't see why. Look at the 90s. Now, the late 90s may not be a good example because it was kind of, you know, way in the other direction.
Right.
You could not buy a magazine with more than 10 rounds unless it said for law enforcement only. And then you could get 14, 15, 17 round magazines. You could not purchase an AR-15. And the only ones who were getting them were law enforcement because of the shooting in LA. And so the AR-15 said on it for law enforcement only, which means a private person could not. So the point I'm trying to make is I'm not saying, hey, let's go back to that. What I'm saying is, it is possible to get some gun legislation passed that's common sense, and it has been done before. And
the crime went down a lot. Was it like over 41% under Bush? And then the Republicans put it back in, and it went back up.
Bush was a real pro-safety. And as a matter of fact, he's the one in 2004 who signed into law the Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act, which allows retired officers to carry anywhere in the United States as long as you have the permit. And his thinking was they're already trained. They're already capable of dealing with situations. Now, you don't have to, but that's a good example of George Bush doing some things that can make it more safe for America.
Well, you know, what I don't understand is this absolute love affair. Like, do you know what a horrible human being you have to be is when you see children that are shot, your first thing is either blame trans people or, oh, cry harder, Lib, you'll grab it from my cold dead hand. See, and it goes back to what you're saying, right? And I actually think this is a deeper issue. When you look at Republicans, right, these I call them these religious Pharisees because they're not Christians. They don't serve Jesus. They serve their orange antichrist. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Okay?
I'm not.
Okay, but let's say that I was. Let's take that example, okay? And this is where this really comes down to. If you say you go to church, right? First, let's just play this out. Let's take an evangelical on a Sunday, right? They get up and they eat their freedom Wheaties and they feed their pet bald eagle and they polish their guns and they put their 800 million American flags and sing God Bless America because, you know, nothing says I love Jesus like that. And you go to church with your F. Joe Biden's bumper sticker and your Joe in the Ho and you praise Jesus. And then when you go to the voting booth, you say, well, my life was better. I had more money in my pockets. Screw my neighbor. So imagine living on a street and you have more money in your pocket, but everybody else is less off and you're going to vote for yourself. I mean, that goes back to what you said. It's there's no empathy. They only care about themselves. They only care about their damn gun.
Their power. And they want to keep their power. They want to keep Trump happy. They want to keep the money flowing in.
Right.
And if they were to turn, like Trump has threatened them, he said, I'll primary you. You know, I won't give you any more money. And that scared Republicans enough to all fall in line. And they seem to not have a compassionate bone in their body. Even Mike Johnson hasn't come out and said, you know, we need to, there's some breaking news though.
What's that?
So apparently, according to CNN, there was 116 rifle rounds fired, 3 shotgun shells and 1 live round from the pistol jammed. But I taught AR-15 when I was a police officer. I was an instructor. I was an advanced instructor for AR-15. So I know more than probably most people should know about the actual weapon itself. And 116 rounds is, that's shooting a 20 or 30 round magazine, reloading, putting in another one, shooting that magazine, reloading, putting that another magazine in. So if they were 20 round magazines, that's 6 different reloads. If they're 30 round magazines, which they probably were, that's another, that's 4 reloads.
How do we, okay, this is what, there's 4 basic things we can do. And I know Brian talks about this. Just give us a couple things, right? And this is for all of you fake Christians out there that are praising Jesus, right? That Jesus sent a man who abuses women because nothing says I love Jesus like abusing women, right? Safe gun storage. If you keep a gun under your bed and your kid has a bad day at school and he uses it and you didn't safely store it, you should be charged.
You should be charged.
Is that an infringement on your constitutional rights, Leonard?
It's an infringement on somebody else's right to live. And you didn't take the proper steps, and there's negligence. And Brian and I spoke yesterday about like which people, who's against universal background checks? Like what people don't want that? What people would say, no, I don't want I don't want everyone to have the same equal background check. And along with the background checks, should there be owner who sold the gun and did not do the proper checks, be held responsible criminally or civilly or both?
I don't know. That's why I don't understand. All of these people that are quote unquote pro-life, right? You're having women with increased sepsis rates in the state of Texas because you overturned Roe versus Wade. Amber Thurman's not here. Adriana Smith, you forced her corpse to be alive for months after she was dead because you're so pro-life. You voted for a president that literally like watched officers get beaten because you're so pro-life. It's just, it really just gets under my skin. Always care about their guns and the Second Amendment. Now, the Second Amendment was written by racist founding fathers that owned black people. They built this country to benefit white people, 21-year-old landowning white men. They said black people were worth 3/5 of a person. And all they care about and all they ever want to talk about is the Second Amendment when muskets were here and it took a minute to reload. They never want to talk about any other part of history. They don't want to talk about the Trail of Tears or Jim Crow or segregation. They don't want to talk about the lynchings. They don't want to talk about any part of history. And I think this goes to a bigger issue. And I want to ask you about this. It seems like a chunk of this country, the lost cause from the Civil War, the losers that can't admit they lost, they're scared to death that America isn't going to be ruled by the white man. That a big chunk of the MAGA base saw the black man sitting in the White House instead of picking their cotton, and they lost their minds and went, oh my God, traditional family values has gone out the window. So they went back to the plantation owner. And then we had a little blip with Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. And then we get to Kamala Harris, the most qualified presidential candidate in the history of this country. Not a felon, doesn't abuse women, didn't have dinner with white nationalists, didn't cause an insurrection, didn't ask for the execution of the Central Park Five. But somehow, Leonard, I just don't like her laugh. She's not qualified. I want the bubbling idiot that talks about Hannibal Lecter and electric sharks and how windmills cause cancer.
Well, maybe that's because the majority of people could relate to him, but there was a lot to cover there. And I think maybe later in the show, we can get into democratic leadership, because I think that's really a good subject for us to cover. But circling back to what you said about muskets and things, I agree, because today's legislation is not time relevant. So we need something that's time relevant. They didn't have any guns back then that could shoot 30 rounds in a row as fast as you could pull the trigger, and then another 30 rounds as fast as you can reload. And they didn't have automatic weapons, and they didn't have handguns that were 50 caliber that could possibly shoot through an engine block. So we need time relevant current legislation that's relevant. And like I said yesterday, some of the Democrats are trying to take too big a bite on the legislation and just shut everything down. And I think you need to take small bites and things that the low hanging fruit, the things that have a chance to be successful.
I want to play this clip. I saw this clip this morning from a parent. Let's play that clip, and I want to talk with you, Leonard, about this after the break.
And I have such mixed feelings right now, so many of them. But I am just incredibly grateful that the school did and had been preparing, and also just incredibly sad and angry that this has to be a thing in any school, that we have to like prepare our kids to protect themselves from an assault, from a firearm assault at school. And my mind is going everywhere. Like, this is not the first time. I'm not the first parent to express these concerns. I'm not the first mom to say how many more kids have to get killed. And so it's a little bit like, this is feeling like a broken record, and it's not okay. I'm so grateful to the staff and the first responders. They did amazing, and I do believe that they saved lives today. And the lives that were lost is too much. One is too much, and it's not okay.
Carla and Pedro, I'm so sorry for what everybody there is going through, and I'm so glad your kids are okay, and I appreciate talking to you. Thank you.
I don't know how you can be a decent human being and hear that. Your first thought is blame trans people and cry harder, libs, you're not getting my guns. I mean, there's a special place in hell, and I have no problem saying that. I hope they bunk next to Jeffrey Epstein. These people in this country care more about a Sig Sauer or a Glock. They worship it, they pray to it, they act like it's a religion. And they keep saying, don't tread on me, me, the most selfish people that live in this country.
But they'll tread on everybody else.
But you'll tread on everybody else's rights. It's okay if you get shot because there's nothing we can do.
Well, there is some breaking news, and they're reporting that the shooter was obsessed with other school shootings.
Ugh.
That's got nothing to do with being trans,
No.
and that he admired them, and he made comments like he wanted children to suffer and he wanted to be like them. So that really takes us, in his own manifesto, takes us way out of the realm of anything having to do with trans. And there was definitely a mental illness, because you could say there's a mental illness on anybody who does a mass shooting. But if you're trying to figure out what this kid did, he planned it in advance. He went down to the school. He did his research. He scanned the area, and he set it up in a way where he shot through the windows. They said this morning that he tried to get in the door, and the door was locked. So that's probably why he shot through the windows.
It is. And that's another thing that was, and I believe it was in the beginning of that clip, was this lady's like, look, or no, Sean Hannity, this idiot, right? This guy that's just fear-mongering to his uneducated trailer park base over here, right? Arm the schools. I mean, he literally wants to just put soldiers all over the schools. Is that really the place that we want to live, America? You really want to go to kindergarten, your first day of school, and say, excuse me, officer, excuse me, tank, excuse me, military. Oh, can you please move your M16 out of the way? I want to enjoy the first. I mean, we're going to be taking pictures with kindergartners with tanks and guns and bazookas. But we just don't want to fix the problem, Leonard. Like, is this really the country?
Does anybody need more than a 10-round magazine? I was a police officer, and I'm telling you right now, as a normal citizen, any shooting that I went to, whether it was a burglary in a house, whether it was some kind of shooting, or they did a drive-by, even on drive-bys, I've done many of them, investigations. And you know what? They shoot a handful of rounds. You don't need even a hunter, they say, because you're hunting. I don't know if you've ever hunted or not, but I went hunting when I was a kid. I don't hunt anymore, but one or two shots, does it. If you don't hit them in one or two shots,
right,
they're gone.
Right. But here's the thing, right? And you hear this from these MAGA nuts all the time that have like concepts of a brain. Oh, well, if you just take the guns away, they're going to find a way to do crime. So if somebody drinks and drives, I guess you just let them have their license because they're going to drive anyway. Maybe we should just make fentanyl legal because they're going to find a way to do drugs anyway. Maybe we should make bank robberies legal, Leonard, because
they could increase.
They're going to do it anyway, right? Why make it illegal if they're going to do it anyway? I mean, that is such a stupid response, is do nothing, don't tread on me.
Yeah, they could increase the penalties, gun penalties, shooting penalties. They could increase the jail time, which in my mind are small steps. But then you get into the argument of who does that. Is it state mandated? Is it state by state? Because I believe that a universal background check that is instituted by the federal government, I think that's very fair. That is not
Yeah.
unfair, because I keep asking, I'm like, well, who is against that? Who says that's violating your rights?
Right.
What rights? What we're saying is, are you mentally capable? Because there are questions about your mental stability on the gun application that you have to answer. And
Yeah.
so if we tighten it a little bit without taking away the guns, because let's face it, there's over 400 million guns in America,
Right.
and there's only 335 million people. So the guns are here to stay.
Right. Well, let me ask you. That's one of the things I want to talk to you about. Let's say somebody owns firearms, okay, and they are talking to a therapist or a psychologist, whatever it is, and they get some help, and they've determined that they have depression or they're a threat to themselves or somebody else. Is it really crazy to say, if that person is a threat to themselves, then they probably shouldn't have firearms in their house until, like, maybe they store them somewhere, they take them away until they've been medically cleared? Is that?
Yeah, but who determines that? See, that's
Well, I'm saying if
that's
it's like
why
a
it's been
medical
an
doctor.
issue. Even a medical doctor, you don't think that doctor will be sued by some Second Amendment crazy person and sue the doctor to say he's taken away my right to have a gun? And
I think here's the thing. I think that the overall issue is this. The people on the right seem to care more about defending the gun itself and freedom. And the people on the left are saying, can we just do something to keep our kids from going to school? Like, I got my kids to go to school. They had a bomb threat last year. I was scared to death. Parents were everywhere. Like, you shouldn't have to send your kids to damn school and say, well, this is how we're going to hide. This is how we're going to lock the door in case a gunman comes in with an AR-15. This is not a great country, Leonard. How can you have this many 400,000 people, 200,000 people died in the last 4 or 5 years?
Well,
but we're a great country, Leonard.
Yeah, and they had one of the children interviewed on the news, and they asked him about that, and he said they get training about once a month, how to run, how to hide. And then the child even said, well, we were taught in our classrooms, but we were in the pews in the actual church. And so they dove under the pews because that's what part of their training was. So they're training young children. Yeah. And he talked about the shooting, like, one of them missed me. And then I realized it was a shooting. And then my friend Victor jumped on top of me. And then Victor got shot protecting him.
Yeah, it was with a shotgun.
So can't we have more of that Victor mentality maybe in the Republican Party?
Well, that's what I don't understand. We just don't seem to give a damn about the kids. It just seems we're obsessed with firearms. I keep hearing we need more people with guns. We have 400. We have more guns than we have people.
There's no proof for that. I mean, Brian and I talked about that yesterday.
Right.
There is actually the stats say that more guns doesn't mean less crime, because there are states that have more guns than a lot of other states, like Alabama and like Tennessee and some of the Midwest states, Arkansas, and some of them have the worst crime in the country.
They do. And that's what I don't get. If this is about law and order, and it's not even about that, right? You voted for a convicted felon. You saw January 6th. They're heroes and patriots. This isn't about law and order, Leonard. This is about total chaos because the white man gets to run the country and everyone else gets demonized. I just cannot believe that in this country we keep saying we're the best, but if you burn an American flag, the right loses their stuff, right? It's drag queens are indoctrinating kids. I would argue that kids having to do active shooter drills, afraid that a guy with an AR-15 is going to come murder them, is probably a lot more detrimental to the psychology of these kids than drag queen weddings. Am I off base here?
Well, the Trump administration is good at getting people wound up about stuff that matters to only 1%. If you watch Bill Maher, who I don't like Bill Maher anymore. I think he completely changed.
He's a clown.
He's kind of a sellout now. But he did make a good point in his new rules, saying that Trump, little by little, he talked about water pressure in toilets and water pressure in showers and sharks. He doesn't want to kill, but he said that's a little 1% over here. And that's another little 1% over here who's worried about, the water pressure, and another 1% that's worried about, getting shocked by electricity. And so not really a brilliant strategy, but we have to find a way to find a leader. Gavin Newsom, I haven't heard from him in a couple of days. He made a couple of comments. He seems like he's got the right idea, but what has he really said in the last few days? Trump is on it. Trump people are on it. They flood the zone. Steve Bannon, right? He admitted that's their plan. A minimum of 3 large-scale, newsworthy incidents every day. And so they flooded the zone, but how do you keep up with that?
let's transition to that really quick, because you want to talk about it, I want to talk about it. Can I give you my little rant about the Democrats really quick? Is that okay?
Let's rant.
Let's rant. Okay. This is where I see we are as just an overall picture. You have Make America White Again, right? They couldn't vote for the black woman, so they found every excuse to vote for the plantation owner in the White House. And then you have the do nothing Democrats. You have, I put what a jellyfish would be as a congressman, and it spit out Hakeem Jeffries. I'm not kidding. That's what it gave me. It said, here's Hakeem Jeffries. He gives strongly worded letters. Eric Swalwell goes out and makes a bunch of funny memes. You got Chuck Schumer yesterday on Blue Sky that says Trump is snorting bronzer. I'm not kidding. This is the minority leader of the Senate.
And he sent him a strongly worded letter.
Yeah, I don't give a damn. You got 50 Democrats that voted for Marco Rubio, who's siding with Vladimir Putin. You got 10 Democrats that voted for the CR. 127 Democrats voted not to impeach him because it wasn't politically beneficial. Then you had Cory Booker. Great, he gave a speech. Good job, Cory Booker.
25 hours.
25 hours. And then he votes for Charles Kushner, who's a convicted felon. This guy was literally witness tampering, and he nominates him. Then you got 14 Democrats that vote for the crypto bill. I just don't understand, Leonard. We have one party that's supporting fascism, and then you have the other party that's just sitting around saying, wait for me in the midterms, vote for us, we're not Republicans. I interviewed Eric Swalwell about 6 weeks ago, and we had talked about a general strike because I still feel like that's the only way this ends is when people use their power. And he says that's too demonstrative. We got people drinking out of toilets in concentration camps, but that's too demonstrative. We got military police in D.C., but that's too demonstrative. I said, would the Democrats consider this? Well, only if it got people registered and it helped Democrats win. I lost all respect for Eric Swalwell. Why is it your job to worry about getting reelected in a year and a half? I mean, Leonard, the House is on fire right now. If the Democrats are, well, we're going to let the House burn.
You got to fight
$10. I'm not a Republican.
70% of Democrats want them to fight fire with fire. They want them to take the gloves off. How are you supposed to be, let's say, in a UFC fight where there's no eye gouging, there's no kicking in the groin, there's no using your knee when the person's on the ground, and you're fighting against someone who has zero rules? Yep. Well, you're never going to win. That's the bottom line. But I don't know if you saw a couple of days ago, the governor of Maryland, Governor Moore,
he's awesome.
Was on. Yeah, but you know what? From a leadership point of view, they asked him about the comments with Trump, and he kind of said, well, that's not true. Like he didn't actually answer it. And then he went into, we need to do more. And what about Kamala Harris? She was on Stephen Colbert. And he asked her, so what's coming up? You're going to run for something, governor, this? No. And what does she say during this conversation? She says, well, right now, the Democratic Party's broken. Okay, well, you don't wait for someone to fix it.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I should have waited out.
No, get in there.
Listen, I like Kamala Harris, okay? We have people in D.C., our own troops with firearms. And I know she lost. I get it. And this is going to rub people the wrong way, and I call balls and strikes. She's going on a book tour?
Well, that's why she was on Stephen Colbert. That's why she was on, not to say let's save democracy, not to save. You got to remember, she was elected by 75 million people.
Yes.
And here's the difference: when she lost, she walked away. When Donald Trump lost in 2020, he set up a fake office of the president, if you remember that, with a seal. He never left his people. He threatened to primary people who were against him. He told them to cancel legislation and not to vote for it. And he never stopped talking to his 77 million people. Is that the difference between MAGA and Democrats? Are they ever going to be successful?
I'm going to use a Rocky reference here. Listen, Sylvester Stallone is kind of a tool. I don't like the guy. I mean, he voted for this guy and he supports him. Rocky 5, okay? There's a scene with Tommy Gunn, and he's in there with Paul. You know where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this. And we didn't talk about this before the show, but he knows where I'm going with this. And Tommy Gunn comes in there, boom, punches Paulie, knocks him down, okay? Loses a tooth. And Rocky goes, why don't you try knocking me down, right? Now, you know what I envision? This is what I see for Hakeem Jeffries. Hey, Tommy, I would really appreciate it if you didn't hit my friend. That's against the law. Would you like to sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk about your feelings? I mean, maybe we can talk about this, and maybe we can hold a fight in a couple of months and work this out. Would that be okay, Tommy?
It's worse than that. They ask him a question. Jasmine Crockett, I love her.
Yep.
I love her to death. AOC, I love her. But they are not leaders, because what they say is, what are you going to do about this? Well, we're going to draft legislation, and we're certainly going to have those. We're going to have those. How many politicians say we're going to have those conversations, and we have to hold people accountable, and we can't let democracy die? But when you say to them, can I give you an analogy? So I was a police lieutenant. I go to a house, I'm en route, and there's a shooting. It's just a random shooting, no specific. And somebody's hurt inside, and people are yelling, and cars are pulling away, and officers are showing up, and they're getting their gear out. And you're across the street because, the lieutenant doesn't go right up onto the scene. You have an inner perimeter sergeant. And let's say they came to me and they said, okay, somebody might be hurt inside, and there's shots. The neighbors heard shots, and people are, what do we do? And I go, well, we're going to have to stick together. We're going to have to hold lawbreakers accountable, and we're going to have to make sure that we follow all the laws and the relevant laws. And we're damn mad that there's shooting in there. And then they say to me, oh, that's not leadership. What do we do next?
Yes.
What is the next step? What do you want us to do? And if I don't have that answer, then I can't be the leader. And that's where the Democratic Party is.
They are
right now.
And you know what they did? You know what Rocky did? He took his butt out in the street. He put him through the gutter. He put him through garbage cans. He put him up against the garbage truck. That's what people in the Democratic Party want. That's why they have like an 8% approval rating, because they suck, because they're not fighting for the people. But give me $10 in a year and a half. If we still have a democracy, maybe we'll do something for you. This is what if it was me, if I was Hakeem Jeffries, thank God I'm not, because I have a backbone and I can sit up straight in my chair. Every day I would tell him, this is what I would do. Leonard, you tell me if you disagree. I don't care if you're in Congress or the Senate. You get your ass to D.C. within 48 hours. If not, I'm going to.
Yeah, where were they yesterday? Where were they?
That's what I'm saying. You get to D.C. I don't want to hear any excuses. You're going to protest every day. We're going to split out throughout the entire city. We're going to sleep in tents in the park. And then the next day, what we're going to do is we're going to open up the halls of Congress. And if we get arrested, then you arrest all of us. We're going to hold an unofficial congressional hearing, and we're going to bring every news media there. Why not do that?
And I thought, actually, without talking to you, I thought of the same thing.
Yeah.
You don't need permission to have your own committee.
No.
You don't need permission to come up with ideas and direction. You don't need permission to file legal challenges and to file possibly criminal charges for some of the things that are going on. So the question is, why have they not done it? And let me just mention Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago. They interviewed him on Morning Joe a couple days ago. And they say to him, would 5,000 officers help make your city safer? And he won't answer. He says, it's all about crime, and we're fighting crime and the police. Then they ask him again. The third time, he says, I'm going to ask you for a third time if 5,000 police officers would help crime. And he kind of went off and said, it's about democracy, and we don't want the military here. But does a mayor of a large city, don't we deserve an accurate answer? Now, he could say, how could you not put 5,000 officers in a large city and affect crime? However, they have to be trained properly. I don't want them violating anyone's rights.
Right.
I don't want any use of force that's not necessary and that's extensive. And say, if we train them properly and we teach them what to do, and they go out to the community with the intent to put bad guys away. But he didn't say any of that. He didn't know what to say.
Because they're absolutely pathetic. They just are.
Where's the leadership?
Well, and right now, Leonard, listen, you know what? Do you know what the troops are doing right now? They're wearing orange vests, picking up garbage, and spreading mulch in the park. This is what they're doing in D.C.
How do you wear camouflage with an orange reflective vest? That makes no sense.
I have pictures of it. I'll show you later.
Well, what I'm saying is it's
crazy.
It doesn't make any logical sense.
But you know what? Here's the problem again. And this is the larger issue. The Democrats should be there. And I don't care. I'm actually disappointed that no Democrat has been arrested yet. What if John, let's play this out. Let's say John Lewis said, you know what? I can't afford to do that. I don't want to lose my job. I'm not going to cross the bridge. What if Martin Luther King goes?
That's how you affect change.
The Democrats, the Democrats want the people to do it. They're getting paid $170,000 a year. We got people making minimum wage, living paycheck to paycheck, and they're saying, nope, you have to march.
The people.
They're on CNN and MSNBC every night.
But you know what? you and I are passionate about this, and we have some good ideas.
Right.
But I was not elected by 300,000 or 400,000. Jasmine Crockett, I think, was elected by 200,000 or 300,000 people. There's people in there's politicians in California. That one gentleman they took out and put on his knees, I forget his name. He was elected by like 6 million people.
Oh, Padilla, or Senator?
I think so. Yeah.
The one that got arrested that one day?
Yeah.
Alex Padilla.
Okay, so the point is, I wasn't elected by 6 million people.
I agree.
So you decided to run, and you're representing. Now you're saying, oh, we're going to have to stick together, and we're going to have to hold them accountable with no concrete plan.
Let's take this a step further. And I talk this when I do my TikToks. Listen, when you have a squeaky wheel, or a squeaky hinge, and you just let it go unchecked, right? And you don't put WD-40 on it, it gets squeaky and squeaky and squeaky, right? So, an example. Oh, they're having all these trans surgeries in K through 12. Has there been one Democrat that has said, give me the names of 50 kids that have had trans surgery? Not one. Oh, CRT. Give us the names of 50 schools in grades K through 12 that teach CRT. Not one. DEI. Give us the names of 50 people that you claim are unqualified. And see, the Democrats don't know how to fight. That's the problem. When you just let the right-wing echo chamber, blah, 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 they're allowing it through their silence, through their complicity. Would you agree with that?
They put out, Fox News puts out talking points. This is how I see it. In the morning, 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning, people get up early. They put out their list of talking points for the day through the news media, and the MAGAs pick up, and then they spend the next couple of days spreading all the talking points that were brought up, whether they're factual or not, whether they're true or not, whether they believe them or not. They just have been programmed to put out the talking points.
Right.
And that's why when Brian confronts them with facts and relevant information, they get mad and say F you, or they hang up on him, or they call him names, or they go, what about Hunter Biden's laptop? That's when you got them in the corner when you do that, because they don't have any information.
No,
they don't have any. They go by what the news media, what Newsmax throws out, and those are the talking points.
And they let it go. And listen, and the same thing with all this dark money with AIPAC, right? Like, listen, we haven't talked about this. Let's pivot just for a quick second, my friends. This whole thing in Israel, okay? I think neither one of us want innocent people in Israel or Gaza, right? We don't want any innocent people to die. Why is it so hard to say, and the Democrats just keep hiding from this, because I think it was 71% of Democrats voted to fund Israel again yesterday. Why is it hard to say that Israel has a right to defend themselves, but at the same time, they don't have the right to starve innocent women and children and bomb hospitals because there might be one? Why is it so? Is this just AIPAC money? Because it seems like they're just all afraid.
It must be,
to take a stance. This isn't complicated.
Well, it's not complicated. To starve human beings and children is just, it's part of genocide, and they're clearing out that Gaza Strip. They went into Gaza City. They had, as you know, they had 5 news reporters in the hospital with other people, and they were killed.
I saw that.
The main,
horrible.
and the main, I forget his name. He was the media face of the media reporting on the Gaza Strip, and he accidentally got killed by a bomb. And they're going to clear out the Gaza Strip. Israel has wanted, the Gaza Strip and Jerusalem to be their own, because they were kind of sharing Jerusalem, and they want that whole area to be theirs for as many decades as I can remember. And so, but Netanyahu's been charged by the International Court for crimes against humanity and those types of crimes. But your question is, why does the U.S. keep supporting him? Is it just money? Is it about riches? Is it about political power? Because if under a different president, under Biden or Obama or even George Bush, they would never allow Netanyahu and Israel, the IDF forces, to clear out, to literally clear the human beings out of Gaza.
So before I'm going to take some calls in a little bit here, unless you, I wanted to.
We should do the Epstein, because we can't let
Epstein go. But I wanted to pivot to one more thing before we get to Epstein, because we're not going to let that go. So we've talked something off. You and I have talked a little bit about this, and I just want to talk about it on air because I want to get your point of view. Well, on the microphone here. If neither political party is actually working for the people, taxation without representation, I proposed something. I know it's a little radical, but it's worked in France and steelworkers. So let's have that conversation now that we're here. A general strike, right? So we live in, and Joe Walsh talks about the social contract. That's something he talks about a lot. We live in a social contract. We agree to pay taxes. We agree to put our kids in schools, get our vaccines, follow the speed limits, yada, 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 be good little citizens, right? Now, the government is supposed to use our money to benefit the people, and they have completely broken their contract, and they have taken our money and weaponized it to support fascism. So my plan is a strike where enough people, you stop working, you stop paying federal taxes, and you just shut the whole system down until the country works for we the people. Now, is it extreme? Yes. But we're also in an extreme situation, right? Because we have one party that's supporting fascism and white supremacy, and then we have the do-nothing Democrats that have nothing to do except give out strongly worded.
Maybe you should explain a general strike, what exactly you're proposing, or what they're proposing.
This is how it works, okay? You get approximately, based on the research that I've done, and this is out there, if you get 3.5% of people to agree to go on a strike, you stop working, you stop paying taxes, you just get the bare minimums like milk, eggs, gas, whatever it is. You shut the country down, because this is how I see it. I think that when we let's look at a car with 500,000 miles on it, okay? It gets 3 miles to the gallon, and has a broken fan belt, and it leaks oil. Leonard, does that car matter if a Democrat or Republican drives it? Is it going to be any more efficient?
I think the answer is no.
No. We've had minimum wage not raised since 2009. We have the largest employer, Walmart, that has 1.4 million people that get paid $31,000 a year, while their CEO gets paid 495 times, $17 million. 15,000 people at Walmart live off of subsidies. The money that you and I bust our ass for, we pay to them because Walmart's too cheap. You have AIPAC, which is money from Israel. You have to reverse Citizens United. For those that don't know, Citizens United in 2010 was proposed by this, not proposed, they ruled on it by the Supreme Court, and it passed, that a corporation like Target LLC, Tesla, not even a person, has the same rights as a private citizen. It can't even vote. But that allows people like Elon Musk to act on the behalf of a corporation and give unlimited money.
And they don't have to say who it came from.
That's correct. You don't have to say who it came from. Women's rights, that should be reinstated. And simple gun reform. So those 5 things, 5 or 6 things that I said, what's the point, I guess, is what I'm saying, my friends, is why are we going to continue in this experiment? Because here's what's going to happen. We're going to go into a recession, most likely. I think it's on the horizon. You think you're poor now? You think it's bad? It's going to get worse. What's going to happen when you lose your job? You're going to lose your house. When you lose your house, you know what happens? Rich people are going to buy your houses, and they're going to charge you whatever rent they want, and you're going to be homeless or in a tent or paying some insane amount of money, and you're going to be in poverty for the rest of your life. Now, I know it sounds extreme, right? And I don't know whether.
How do you get people to do it, though? How do you get everyone to agree and get it organized?
I've tried to organize it. This is what I've noticed, is that it seems like we as a people are willing until it affects us. Like, if we acted as if, like, love thy neighbor as thyself, right? Like, if their mom was in a concentration camp, they would care. If their dad was racially profiled, they would care. But because the darkness hasn't come to their doorstep yet, they're still going around like, oh, it's fine. And then it's going to come to them. And I always go back to this quote. And I forgot the person. It goes, first they came for the union workers, but I wasn't a union worker, so I didn't do anything. Then they came for the socialists, but I wasn't a socialist. Then I didn't do anything. Then they came for the Jews, and I wasn't Jewish. And then they came for me, and nobody was left to help me. And I'm afraid that's what's going to happen if we don't take something into our hands. And I agree with you, Leonard. It sucks that we're paying these people $170K a year, and they're doing nothing. But I also don't want innocent people to get hurt in this. What are your thoughts? I know it's a lot. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were obviously elected, but here's the question, Paul, for everyone. How come 2 passionate, interested parties can sit here on the radio and off the top of their head, basically, and through some research, come up with 4 or 5 different ideas that could really grip and get some teeth and some momentum.
Yeah.
And then you're watching on the TV and you're watching the leaders of the Democratic Party and the leaders, people who are elected to be the leaders, sit there and say things like, well, we got to fight fire with fire.
What does that
and
mean?
we got to hold them accountable, and we can't let democracy.
But Leonard,
and
what
the
does
people,
that
how about the
mean?
people's voice must be heard? How about that? Where the people's voice must be heard. It's like the people will stand up. My opinion, the people will stand up. The people will fight. The people will back you, but you have to lead.
Yeah.
No one is going to, in this country, there aren't enough people. No one's going to then say, well, someone has to step up and lead. But what about the people who were elected to lead? Where are they? What are they waiting for?
I think what has to happen in this time is going to be, and listen, I am not these people I'm speaking. I'm just using them for reference, right? Martin Luther King wasn't elected. Rosa Parks wasn't elected. Claudette Colvin in 1955, a 15-year-old black girl that sat on a bus, she wasn't elected. She went to jail at 15 years old just because she had the audacity to sit on a white person's bus. But we can't even get the damn Democrats to get off their butts and stop going on puffer interviews with left-leaning news agencies and go to D.C. and actually get arrested. All I see is Cory Booker giving motivational speeches, Leonard, from his football coach. Thanks.
And he does a great speech, and so does Jasmine Crockett. But at the end of it, when I on social media and I make comments, I'm like, okay, well, what's the plan to lead? When are you going to lead? Who is going to lead? And my question, I think you and I may have spoken about this last time, maybe not, but with the current Democratic leadership in place, and then you have this younger crowd, this more vibrant crowd, this crowd with good ideas and great speeches.
Yep.
Even if we wanted, would those older Democrats step aside?
But
the ones who have
right.
been there and they're crusty and they've been your Chuck Schumers of the world, they have a lot of power.
Yeah.
And when people say, yeah, you can just step aside, it's not like that. The reality is
Yes.
they have a lot of power and a lot of control. So the question is, are they going to get out of the way and let the true leaders lead?
And I think that's the problem, right? You have AOC had that open co-chair position that she should have gotten.
Yep.
But she picked a 70-year-old crusty old white guy with throat cancer. You had David Hogg and Kenyatta. I love Kenyatta. He's an awesome dude. He wanted to make the party younger. He wanted to go more progressive. He wanted to take the old dinosaurs out. They kicked him out. Nancy Pelosi's 82. They got a young guy over there in Washington and San Francisco that's very progressive. He has no shot against her money and her clout. She's worth like $240 million.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. The party itself doesn't want to change. I don't even think Hakeem Jeffries has endorsed Mondavi yet, has he?
No, he hasn't. And I don't think he's going to.
Why?
Because they're saying that he's a little too left, and a little too radical. But here's the thing that people like about Mamdani. The thing that they've been speaking on, and the people who like him, it's not necessarily his policies, and they agree what he says, but they like the way he speaks. He speaks and he says what's in his heart, and he says, this is what I'm going to do. And one of his key issues is to stabilize the rent in New York City.
Yeah. Because
the rent's out of control. And so one of the things that grabbed everyone's attention was he wants to make it so that landlords can't gouge you and gouge and gouge. And only the rich people, the very rich people, get the nicest places, and everybody else
and
has
Hakeem
to pay.
Jeffries is against that?
Well, not against it, but, it's politics. Because once he couples up with that person, then he must believe the same thing that he believes. But what he could do is he could get out of the way and let some of the younger people with the good ideas start to do some of the leadership.
And see, I think that's fundamentally the problem, right? Is they're playing politics. While people are living paycheck to paycheck, they're playing politics with people's lives. Their job in that position, making that kind of money, is to make yours and mine and Numtuck's life better. And Brian should, maybe not Brian. Brian's okay. He's okay. He's on a couch, so he's fine. But it's their job is not to get reelected and stay in power. And it seems like politicians that seems to be their full-time job is think they don't give a damn about us. Nobody's raised minimum wage. And listen, I'm going to go back to the Democrats one more time before we go to Epstein. If the Democrats, would they have the supermajority under Obama, they could have codified Roe versus Wade, and they didn't. You know why? Because they wanted to play politics. They played with fire, and it bit them in the ass, and now women lost their rights. Is it the guy in the White House right now that's responsible? Absolutely. But if the Democrats would have done their job, that would have never happened.
Which Democrat that may run for president or some power position in the future has gone publicly and said, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to work on getting back Roe versus Wade? Which one has said that? It's such a simple, and doesn't the majority of the country favor some kind of circumstances where abortion is acceptable if they were raped and they're a child, or it's the mother's life is on the line. And so the majority of the country thinks there should be some reasonable. So it's a good. It's a good policy for us. But have you heard anybody speak about that?
No, but let me ask you a question about that before we get to Epstein here. Again, when these justices went for their interviews, they said that Roe versus Wade was established law.
They did.
Why are they allowed to lie under oath and not lose their jobs? Why are Democrats, or maybe this is something I need to research, why is there no legal ramification for a Supreme Court lying under oath and still getting to keep their job?
There can't be, because they have to be able to make decisions freely with no pressure, and they have immunity, so to speak, because they have to make decisions on the law, and they can't really be held accountable like a normal person. But they did say that. I felt comfortable with Kavanaugh when he said, that's well established, law that's been there, and I don't plan on messing with that. But the whole time, like you said, the whole plan was to help them get rid of it.
Yeah. And
so it's a lifetime appointment. But how come no powerful Democrat who wants to be the leader has come out openly in public and said, I think there should be term limits on the Supreme Court?
Because
I think there should be term limits on federal judges who are in the appellate court.
That's a great thing. I'll tell you why. When I interviewed Eric Swalwell about 6 weeks ago, he said that when we had the majority under Biden, we should have raised minimum wage. We should have put term limits on the Supreme Court.
They should have added 2 is what they were thinking about doing. They were thinking about adding 2 Democratic-leaning justices, which would have rounded it out a little more. And you know who put an end to that? The Democrats put an end to that.
And Eric Swalwell, and he said, we should have done that, but we were trying to go more moderate. Again, they were playing politics with people's lives. They had an opportunity to make things
Not
better.
to interrupt you, but that is moderate, because he's talking about going more towards the center. So if you're balancing out the Supreme Court, isn't that going more moderate?
I'm talking about even raising minimum wage. It's been $7.25 since
it's still. I think it's still $7.25.
Yeah, and they're getting paid $170,000 a year. In Congress,
no one can live on.
Wanted to give them a 3% cost of increase rates.
Come on, Paul. No one can live on $7.25.
I know that, but when we keep giving tax breaks to the rich people, that's the problem.
You want to pivot to just real quickly to the Epstein, because
all yours, buddy.
And this is personal to me because I don't want to let the Epstein situation go,
I saved
because
it for you, buddy.
There's so much going on that people have really been distracted. And so what a judge said last week was that he was not going to allow the testimony and the investigation from the grand jury to be made public. And he said because it's irrelevant. It was mostly about Maxwell. It was mostly about Jeffrey Epstein. There wasn't anything relevant about other people. Mm-hmm. And Maxwell's already in jail, and Epstein committed suicide, if you believe that. But I wanted people to know, according to Caitlin Collins on CNN, who I really like.
She's good.
What some of the requirements for Maxwell's cooperation actually are. This is a letter. And it's brief. It won't take long. The attorney for the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, said initially they were going to invoke her Fifth Amendment rights. But they say they are not willing to cooperate if some huge demands are not met. That's what brings us back to Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell be granted formal immunity for her testimony, so she cannot be prosecuted for anything she says. They're requesting the interview be conducted outside the correctional facility where she is serving her 20-year sentence. That's since then been changed. Requires her questions from the committee to be in writing in advance of her testimony due to the immense volume of information and the amount of time it would take, stating the surprise question would be unproductive. Any testimony that she would give would only happen after the resolution of her Supreme Court petition, because she petitioned the Supreme Court to have all charges dropped. It will likely take months for the Supreme Court to hear this, if they do decide to hear it. And the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, who is actually clueless in my opinion, said that it's unlikely that anyone would want to grant immunity to someone who's been convicted of child sex trafficking. And that's what he said. So my question to you is, why is everybody trying to give deference to a woman who was a convicted child sex trafficker? And also she was charged twice with perjury. And so she's an accused perjurer. Why would anybody give her any kind of reasonable doubt to help her out at all, unless they were involved?
You know what's disgusting, Leonard, is I was a Republican until 16. I think I told you this. I cannot believe that party, and I always thought John McCain wasn't perfect, but he was a decent human being and he stood for something, right? Just think about this. This party overlooked an adjudicated rapist, a convicted felon, January 6th, a guy who cheats on his wife, who tried to steal an election. I mean, he's done everything. There was no moral bottom. And now this party of family values, right? The party that praises Jesus, they're literally shutting down Congress so the news cycle will stop talking about the president in the Epstein files that molested little girls. Well, and now they moved her to a prison in Texas where I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but now there's some kind of like work release where she can go out on good behavior. Is that right?
They removed one woman who complained about her being there, and one woman was worried about her safety and what might happen. And instead of moving Ghislaine Maxwell, they removed the lady who was complaining about unsafe conditions.
They're going to let her go out and do work in the public.
Yeah.
So they moved her from a maximum security.
It's like a day spa, they said over there.
Yeah, where she molested young girls. They put her in a cozy place in Texas, and now she gets to go out.
And a 20-year sentence.
Jesus Christ. This is where we are.
And a 20-year sentence on top of all of that. And I thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak about it, because I think some of what goes on in the Trump administration is to make sure they have a heavy news cycle every single day. Every single day they're talking about more and more people, and they make it so like Steve Bannon said, flooding the zone. So we will stay on that. We will keep people updated on how that's going to go. And I guess what's next?
We're going to take a break, and then it's time for the phone calls.
The phone lines are already packed. So if you're going to call in, you should probably get
Leonard.
on it.
Nobody wants to talk to me.
Oh, they love to talk.
All right. We'll see you guys in 90 seconds, right?
I don't know how long it is.
90 seconds. Sure, 90 seconds. All right. Talk to you guys on the break. Bye.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn?
Welcome back. Welcome back. It is the Paul and Leonard Show. We're taking over for Brian Shapiro. He is sitting on the beach on J.D. Vance's couch using protection, so he is safe. Okay, everybody? He will be safe. He's using latex gloves. That's all I can tell you because this is a family show for the majority. All right.
Let's take some calls.
Let's
see
do it.
what
Mark has been
let's see
waiting.
what's on their mind.
Mark, how you doing, bud? Hey, Mark. Sorry about that. How you doing, bud?
Hello, Paul and Leonard. How are you two guys?
Hi, Mark.
Good.
I have a few things to say. Number one is I've been asking for Left Parnas to get on this show forever, practically. And he has all the knowledge. He has all the inside info. He has all the people that leak him info. And everything that he had predicted has come true.
Yes.
He has stated that the Dems do not know how to change the news cycle. They are always on defense. They never go on offense. And he can tell them how to do this.
Yes.
Now, my other message is there's no unified message with the Democrats. None. Look at the Republicans, right?
Can I ask you a question
All
really
Trump
quick?
has to do.
Mark.
I have a couple more things, though. Here,
Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm trying to get
Mark, if I was to ask you a question, who is the leader of the Democratic Party? Who would you say?
There is none.
That's the problem. Go ahead.
There is none. Okay. They have no unified message. Look at what Donald Trump did. One day he came out with the saying, the deep state. And every single Republican, whether on TV, on chat rooms, and on the internet, every single one of them would say, it's the deep state. Then they came out with the Sleepy Joe. Everyone said Sleepy Joe.
Well,
Then it was
the pot
Harris, the
calling the
border
kettle
czar.
pot.
And they all stated that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Now-
they were calling them what they are. They're the deep state, but go ahead.
Exactly, but it's their unified message. That's what it is.
Correct.
Now, yesterday, Stephen Miller, I think he was really angry and upset. He was steaming, and he came out
Hey.
with something I don't think he should have. Did you hear what he said yesterday?
He said a lot of different things. You mean about the shooting?
He announced that the FBI is going to label the Democratic Party as a terrorist organization.
Oh, I heard something about that.
Do you know what that means? That means they could stop all donations to the Democratic Party, and you don't put it past Trump. And
No.
Well, it also means that they could change their voting rights. They could tell them that they don't have the right to vote, even in the blue states.
Exactly. And you don't think that they are planning this?
No,
Look what they're doing now.
Stephen Miller is the shadow president. He is a white supremacist. Let's be
Exactly.
real. There was a time, Mark, when I heard him say that if it was up to him, he would have 100 million people living in this country and they would all be white. When a couple days ago, I heard a story when he was in high school from a couple of his high school friends. They were friends for a while, and then one day he said, "Well, what's your demographic?" And they were Latino, and they never heard from him again. This is who he's been. Listen,
What
he is
does
a white
it sound
supremacist.
like? Does it sound a little bit 1933-ish?
It's just like
sound
Nazi
a little
Germany.
bit like Nazi Germany.
Didn't they have that? Didn't they have that Nazi thing in Madison Square Garden?
They did. In America, and I still can't believe
Exactly.
they have Nazi marches, and they're allowed to use their First, Amendment freedoms to engage in hate. But everybody else has to be careful what they say. And
My last thing before I go, I'm telling you, this is just the beginning.
Yes.
You have
I
seen
agree.
nothing yet.
Yep.
I think the occupation in Washington, D.C. of the military is only the start. They're going to occupy other states. And instead of
That's to get
invoking
you
martial
used
law
to it.
like they did in South Korea, because that got the president booted. He was booted when he. So instead of creating martial law, he's going to do it in increments, and then eventually have the whole country locked down.
Well, Mark, do you think that at some point, because my understanding from this is, and maybe Leonard can correct me here, he could only do this for, I think, 30 days, and then the Congress has to approve it unless he declares a quote-unquote national emergency.
That's what he said.
And then
He said,
can
I'm going to do it
basically be
anyway.
gone.
He already said that. He said, I'm going to do it anyway. He said, they better
how
vote for it. And if
martial
they
law
don't, I'm
works-
going to do it anyway.
How
Sorry, go
martial
ahead.
law works is that the president can declare that there's civil disobedience. Congress is the ones that have to declare martial law. And that's just Trump picking up the phone stating, I want martial law declared.
Right.
Once that's declared, elections can be suspended legally.
Well, he said
And
that.
the
He
court
said that
can
about
do anything about it.
Yeah, he said that about 2028. He mentioned a couple of days ago. He said, well, if there's an election, he said, remember, there can't be an election if there's a war. And so he can pick
Correct.
anything and say, well, we're at war, and so no elections. I mean, these are some of the strategies. And the thing is, they're not hiding. They're hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
They're telling you straight out what their strategy is.
All right, Mark.
Look what he gave. Look what he gave. Look what he gave the contractors of ICE. How many billions of dollars? This is all leading up to this.
It's a grift. We're all being we're living in the Hunger Games, my friend.
I'll give you a stat. So in Washington, D.C., it's costing the federal government $1.1 million per day.
Yep.
To keep the troops there and keep it occupied.
To put mulch on the ground.
And it's only $168,000 a day to house all of the homeless for one day. So you tell me where that money's going, because it's our money, right?
Yeah, it's red meat for his uneducated concepts of a brain
Well,
base.
my last point before I go, I already held you up a long time. My last
good.
point is it cost him more to burn the food instead of giving it out and feeding the hungry.
Yeah, $500
children,
million.
right?
$500 million worth of food could have went to the Gaza Strip, but because of politics, they decided that it was expired and to get rid of it. And by the way, you have to remember, they were advised ahead of time that it was about to expire, and they still didn't send the food.
That's socialism. We
Correct.
don't want to just give people food, Leonard. We don't want to take care of starving kids.
Thank
in
you,
other
guys.
countries. That's socialism. We're pro-life.
Yeah, so
Thank
let's
you, Mark.
just burn it.
Have a great day.
Thanks,
All right,
Mark.
number 2. We'll go George next.
Thank you, fellas. If I may, I don't want to be political at all with this call. Yesterday was a gut punch for me. I'm 80 years old. I went through in 95 in the Colorado Columbine shooting when my kids were in school, and now I got grandchildren in school. Yesterday, I called up the president's line to leave a message. I called up Senator Klobuchar in Minnesota, our senators, and our governor, saying this problem should be the number one problem in the country to solve. We have spent hundreds of trillions of dollars in the last 100 and so years to protect citizens of the world.
Yep.
And it is money is not a problem. You remember, think about the last Super Bowl, World Series, or any sporting event that was ever attacked. They know how to protect their
George,
customers.
are you a nationalist? Are you saying you're a nationalist?
No, I'm not saying anything politics, please.
That's not politics. A nationalist is a title given to a person who only cares about their country, and a globalist is someone who believes that we should get involved in global political politics, and that we have to worry about everybody else in the world just like they worry about us. But if you're a nationalist, I just was asking. It's not a political term.
Lieutenant, the reason I'm calling you is you have 25 years in law enforcement, and I want your opinion on my solution. That's why I'm calling. Like I said, the political, the sporting events have been protected. They know how to do it. The schools have not. I'm not positive. There were 330 school shootings last year in 2024. Now, my solution is that the president should ask Congress for whatever money it takes to put at least 2 police officers in every city and village and school in this country. I believe there's 99,000 public schools and 17,000 private and religious schools. And I'm saying that tomorrow, if Congress put the money forward, every city could take 2 of their best police officers and put them at a school.
Okay,
Maybe
George,
4.
hold on a second, because you're throwing a lot, and we have to dissect little by little. So you're saying 99,000 schools. Let's call it 100,000 for a round number, just because it makes it easier. So you would have to take 200,000 police, okay, to protect 100,000 schools. So my first question is, number one, where are you going to get them from? And then you're going to say, well, I don't know. We'll have to hire them or train them.
No, I do.
Somebody's going to say,
know.
well, what about the military? There's enough military. And if we use the military, now you're saying that the military has to go ahead and protect schools. And so we are asking about the premise, but where are we going to get the 200,000 police officers from? No, I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a nationalist idea.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks for the call today.
Thanks for calling, George.
Who's next? Peter? Let's do Peter.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Leonard.
Peter, how are you today?
Well, thank you, Leonard, for governor.
Hey, 31.
Whoa! Well, I need an autograph.
We're up to 31.
Real quick, kind of piggyback off the topic George was just talking about. I saw a response online and kind of blew my mind because I hadn't put it into these kind of terms before. I wanted to see what you guys thought. If women took up firearms to defend their reproductive rights, the GOP would immediately demand gun control.
Okay, first of all, we're not going to condone any sort of gun violence in any form, and I'm sure Paul I'll let Paul speak. I'm not going to speak for him, but we don't condone breaking the law and gun violence in any form. And no time soon are a bunch of intelligent women going to pick up guns and defend their rights. So we need something a little more concrete, a little more objective. Try to be more objective and give us an idea that would actually be plausible.
What do you think about the proposals that I offered? Safe gun storage, background checks, waiting periods, and universal. What was the other thing? There's 4.
Universal background. What I said was universal background checks and charging the gun store with a crime or a civil penalty.
What do you think about those?
Yeah.
Are those not basic, simple things?
100%. And what Brian says all the time too, with the red flag laws and the training and the re-registration, but he also brought up another point that I really hadn't heard either. Well, I'm sure you guys have too. But what about like making it more difficult or even, I guess, more expensive for the ammunition?
You could, but then I think this is what I'm afraid is going to happen with that is you're going to get into these Republicans about freedom, right? FREEDUMB, because God forbid you even look at their guns, and then you're going to have to get into regulating them because it's a capitalistic society. How do you tell Glock what to charge for their ammunition?
Well, and I understand what he's saying.
I don't know. I don't disagree with him. I just know how
the Chris Rock theory. It should be $5,000 a bullet, and I get that was a comedy. But what about laws? And I would not be in favor of making it more expensive. But what about laws that limit how much you can buy at a time? Instead of I can go right now. I'm telling you, I can buy 1,000 rounds right now online, and it'll arrive at my door as long as I pay a few $100s for it, and that includes .223. That includes 5.56, 45 caliber, 9mm. I can order it right now. So maybe the laws should limit how much you can buy. But I think the gun nut people and the guys who have 10 safes in their house full of handguns and rifles and spend thousands of dollars, I think that they're going to do it anyway, even if you limit how much ammo they can buy.
It's just crazy. My original point was like these people are worried more about the identity of this murderous person rather than the victims that he took. They're more concerned about
you're right.
His or her identity.
Right, but I think
it's crazy because sorry, go ahead.
No, but I think you're right, because this is, right? There is a version, this MAGA base, right? The lost cause from the Civil War, the Make America White Again movement. They have been told their whole lives that America is the best of the best of the best. Nobody in God's creations ever is better than us. Yes, we have 40,000 people that die every year, and 11% of our population live in poverty, and 800,000 people live on the street. But how dare you knock the American flag? Leave this country. And what happens was we've indoctrinated a big chunk of this country, and this goes back to elementary school, right? Worship the flag, sing to the flag. Like, we almost have created almost like a cult following. Like, no other country in the world treats a symbol like this. And I think you're right, is the MAGA base cares more about the symbol of the flag than the people that the flag represents. Does that make sense?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And they're allowed 100%. To carry Nazi flags and Nazi shirts and T-shirts because it's First Amendment and they have that right. But in that same vein, we have the right. It used to be within your First Amendment right to burn a flag to show that you were upset about how America, in the direction of America. Now, did they make it a law yet? Did they make it a felony? I'm not sure.
It was just an executive order. It's just a wish list. It's like, I want candy from Santa Claus.
Can you enforce an executive order? No. I mean, I don't even know. It's not law. So
no, but now, but what they're doing with the flag burning is this. They're saying, it's inciting violence or it's polluting the air. They're doing that gobbledygook.
You can always
did you see the veteran that was arrested outside of the White House for burning it?
Yes, he was with Jolly. I think the guy's name is Jolly Ginger or something. I saw that. Yeah, he 22 years
he was
served this
released
country.
right away. The very next day, he was released.
Yeah, it was toxic masculinity. It's just red meat for his base. That's all it is. So, all right, buddy. Well, thank you
Thanks
for the call
calling,
today.
Peter.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, who we got next? Let's go to Terry, number 4. Terry, how you doing?
Doing fine, thanks. Nice to have you both here today
Hi,
with
Terry.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah, Leonard, I wanted to comment on something that you had talked about earlier on in the show about Trump, and it kind of in the background during the Biden term, and I kind of summarized that as running a shadow government during that period because he held the Republicans hostage, and he interfered with the Democratic policies and bills that were that were put forward. So he ran for, after leaving office, he literally ran, I think, a shadow government. Because he was doing all the policies. He kind of acted like he was the president. So,
right. And
yeah.
Are you aware that he actually started a little business who had its own letterhead and a little office that looked like the Oval Office?
Yes.
Very few people know about that, but he actually did that. But what happened to the Democrats? Why didn't Kamala Harris still exert her influence over the 75 million people that voted for her? Why didn't she continue to get involved in politics? Why didn't she present herself as the leader? And at the very least, if you don't want to be the leader, give direction to the United States, at least some direction.
Can I chime in on that really quick? This is what I don't understand. Like the guy in the White House right now, filed 66 lawsuits when he lost?
Yeah.
I mean, he, for the first time in history, one candidate won every single swing state. She didn't challenge anything, and I'm not saying anything's there. I'm with Brian on that.
No, they wanted to be the Dems, and
but that's the problem.
Peaceful transition of power.
She just rolled over and went away. Now she's doing a book tour. It's like we need leaders, and the person that got 75 million votes is just going on a book tour.
Well, Biden had, if you remember, Terry, Biden had bipartisan legislation to look at the border and to make it safer and add agents. And you know what? It would have passed, except for Trump made some calls and told the leader at the time to shut it down.
Yeah, he was calling in and saying, "Don't pass the bills." Paul, this one is something I wanted to talk to you about. I just wanted to let you know that there are some of us out there putting in the work to get facts and truth into our communities. I have been out there protesting. I'll be protesting on Monday and giving a speech to help keep the movement going we have in our community and save our democracy and country.
Did you want to say where and when so people know?
Yeah, actually live in Maryland. I live in Carroll County, and we usually get a pretty good turnout for those protests. And it's not a huge county, but but I want you to know that there are some of us out there that really care. And I don't know why the Democrats are just, I feel like we're doing their work for them.
We are. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
You heard me earlier talk about the strike and using our power. What are your thoughts about that? Because this is what I'm afraid of, right? I think that protesting is great. I'm just trying to be, I like to look at things through the whole cycle. If we protest every couple of months, right, it's good. It shows that we're upset. Mm-hmm. At some point, people are going to stop going because they don't think it's doing anything. That's just human nature, right? We got people that want to quote unquote black out the system when they don't spend for 3 days. And then the fourth day, they're going to spend the money they didn't spend those 3 days. You got people that want to call in sick for a couple of days, but they're getting paid to do that. All of these things, going to town halls, writing letters, they're all keeping us within our comfort zones. Do you think that at some point that we have to get outside and do something like we're to shut it down, or do you think that's too demonstrative in the word of Eric Swalwell?
Absolutely, Paul. I'm definitely in for that. Look, I'm a 69-year-old woman. I'm not afraid of Donald Trump, but apparently everybody that is at the Capitol are. And I'm not afraid of him.
You know,
I'm not.
What's funny about that is fear is given, right, Leonard? If everybody said to the plantation owner in the White House, we're not going to listen to anything you have to say, he would have no power. The only power he has is what we give him. And I'm trying to make people understand that. I grew up with a narcissist, right? My dad was a bully. He used to beat us all the time. I know how this works. They roll through fear. And I use this story about the Christmas story when that little kid is being picked on by those two bullies. And that one day, You remember the story where he goes out there and he just kind of lays into him in the snow over and over again. The bullies never mess with him again. That's how you have to deal with bullies. And Democrats are running in their house and hoping that somehow in the midterms they're going to be elected and then they're magically going to come back. And I'm with you. I'm sick
It
and tired.
couldn't be
of
more obvious. All of the Democrats, all of the polls are going to the leaders telling them you need to do more. Stop bringing a knife to a gunfight, you know, hypothetically. Right. But Terry, when you have your little get together on Saturday, if anyone asks, tell them pushing the limits definitely backs what you're trying to do there and accomplish.
Oh, that's really good to know. Thank you. I'm actually working within. It's Indivisible. You know, they're all over the.
Yes.
We're just called Indivisible Carroll County. Last thing I'll leave you with is, you know, you were talking about having something to run on. Mendami is doing that. It's called affordability.
Yep.
It's one word. Everybody start using it. It's a good word. It's not a bad word. It's a good word.
And it's not that hard to tap into what's really important to people, correct? Buying groceries, getting gas, paying off your credit card, buying a vehicle that you need for your family.
Leonard, are you saying that I'm not a Republican isn't a platform? Is that what you're saying, Leonard?
Yeah. Well,
wow, really?
Someday we're going to have a caller call in and say that there's no difference between a MAGA and a conservative Republican, because there definitely is.
There's a line out. All right, my friend, thank you for the call.
Oh, by the way,
Thank
in
you.
the chat, some people are upset that I spoke in a pejorative manner about Kamala. So I would ask those callers, those people in the chat, call in and tell me why I'm wrong about Kamala Harris, because it has nothing to do with a black female. It has nothing to do with the fact that she was of a certain ethnicity.
No,
it has to do with how she just. I mean, she raised $1 billion.
She did.
So that's from a lot of people that were counting on her, and then she just decided to walk away.
All right. Jan on line 3 from Germany.
Oh, thanks a lot. Hi. You've been talking about how to restrict gun ownership. I would like to talk a bit more general. I don't really understand, why do private persons need weapons at all? I mean, in Germany, basically no private person owns guns. And we don't have a problem with it. But we also don't have a problem with, school shootings and stuff like this. So really, very general. Why do you think you need arms as a private person?
I believe because there's a lot of people in this country that view the Constitution as a religion, as a Bible, that it is somehow their identity. And you can't change course.
But the Constitution can be amended.
But to a lot of people in this country, that's considered blasphemy. They view it like a religion, like almost like it's a god. Like they view school shootings as a cost of doing business, but don't tread on me, don't infringe on my personal freedoms. I don't disagree with you, but when we as a country are very nationalistic, right? Like the John Wayne, like, oh, America, I eat raw meat on a board and I arm wrestle polar bears and I catch salmon with my teeth in the river because I'm a real man and I got me some guns. Yeehaw! Like, to a lot of people, that's their version of masculinity and being an American. Does that make sense? And when you take their guns away, they think that you're taking away part of their identity. They just don't care that kids are shot in schools.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I just think what we should do to be more offensive in this discussion. I think it's too defensive to only talk about, maybe we do a little bit because these are the low-hanging fruits. I think this is a defensive discussion style, and this is not enough to motivate people.
Let me just say, Jan, where it came from was when we became independent from England, and we started to create America. We wanted people to be able to arm themselves as a militia because of the tyranny and oppression that we came from. And the tyranny and oppression that we came from, they were armed and we were not. Now, that's how it started. But like you said, that morphed into now everybody has to have a whole group of guns in order to feel safe.
Yeah, and this is 250 years ago. So you should be able to evolve as a nation.
But we haven't, because we're still a racist country, right? We still have black people going to vote until the 60s, right? And even now, we're demonizing trans people. We're demonizing minorities, right? Because to make America white again, to the Confederacy that lost, the MAGAs, right? They see an immigrant that's been here for 40 years that's never been found guilty of a felony. Never. Sure, their documentation's not right. They've been a productive member of society. They pay their taxes. They run businesses. They raise their kids here. But somehow the convicted felon who's a white man who is an adjudicated rapist, who molests girls on Epstein Island, who causes an insurrection, who's a felon and commits tax fraud and asks for the execution of the Central Park Five, somehow he's a patriot because he's white. But if you're brown and your documentation's not right, we're going to break your windows, zip tie you, and throw you into a concentration camp. We really haven't evolved as much as we thought we had.
And if you look at the world history, every country who has rid themselves of the immigrants that helped build the country has financially collapsed.
Yep.
And that's where we're headed, because how many farms have we seen on TV, on social media? Farms no longer exist and can no longer do business, can no longer supply corn and strawberries and alfalfa because all the workers have left. And we're going to pay the price for that.
We will.
Thanks for calling from Germany, though. That's
thank
impressive.
you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you.
But at least we own the libs. Hey, really quick before we get this call, there is, and I see this on Blue Sky. You're talking about blue MAGA. What is blue MAGA? This is the hardcore left, vote blue, no matter who. And anytime you criticize anybody in the Democratic Party, they get their panties all in a twat. They always do it. Kamala Harris, I voted for her. She got 75 million people. She is a prosecutor. I voted for her. She would have been an incredible president. She lost. And instead of keeping the fight, she just went on vacation. I'm just keeping it 100, Leonard. Well, these people on the far left keep making excuses for Democrats. They are wedding 75 million people wanted her to be president, and she goes on a book tour.
Well, some of the people in the chat, are upset because black females do have it harder when they try to get into business, which 100%. I agree with. I don't have a discrimination bone in my body.
No.
And in fact, in about 2015 or so, I was a union president for several years. And I was asked by all of the local unions when they needed somebody to speak at the Martin Luther King statue on MLK and Cary about human rights and civil rights. They asked me to do it. And so I understand. And I'm not a black person, so I could never really understand being hated for the color of my skin, but I can relate in other ways.
I agree.
And I can tell you that what I'm speaking about, Kamala Harris could have been white, black, Asian, Mexican, whatever, anything. What I'm saying is I was talking about leadership, leadership qualities. I was not talking about anything else but that.
Yep. All right. Daryl has been waiting. Daryl, thanks for calling in.
Hi. How you guys doing?
Hey there.
Good.
Hey, just to touch on the shooting, Epstein, Democrats being cowards. Obviously, Republicans are cowards. What is it going to take for us as a country to evolve and push forward and to realize that, maybe it's not all about the money, because in my eyes, that's all anyone's after. It's about the money.
I don't want to say, but I think I know what it's going to take. And it's going to take something really, really bad.
Are you
I don't want to say.
And that sucks because, obviously we all enjoy capitalism. That's how we can thrive and push forward as a country and, become better. And it's going to destroy our capitalistic society.
It is.
If somebody just doesn't stand up and say, you know what, forget the money. Let's do the right thing.
I think there's two parts of this. I think there's the part that you're talking about, which is the capitalistic system. And I think the end of capitalism is oligarchies, because right now all of the money is transferring to the very wealthy, and we're going to be living in the Hunger Games. That's the first part. The other part of it is, and this is what I believe, that they voted for the plantation owner. They didn't want a black woman. And for too long in this country, whether I like it or not, this is what I look like. I'm a white dude, okay? There's too many people that sat on their asses and hid behind their privilege during the civil rights movement. They didn't do a damn thing. Oh, it doesn't affect me. Doesn't affect me. It's not my problem. It's their problem. And even now, when immigrants and minorities and black people are being treated like garbage, oh, I'm going on vacation. Oh, I'm watching Netflix. We're doing the same thing. And until we address that as a country, and I say this on my TikTok all the time, the original sin of this country is white supremacy. It was built by white men to benefit white men and white men alone. In every demographic, trans, gay, minorities, black people, Asians in internment camps, women couldn't vote, women didn't have credit, women couldn't have no divorce. Every demographic except for mine has been treated less than. And we have to have more people that look like me, whether I like it or not. I benefit from this, and I'm the demographic that has to call it out and tear it down. We have to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
in 2024, this country was not ready to elect a black woman president, and much of it was because of existent racism that used to be hidden or at least dormant to a certain extent. And now, not only are they racist in plain sight, they're proud of it. They're proudly saying that we want to have a white nationalist country.
Yep.
Trump involves himself in other countries, but you could tell he really doesn't want to.
Yep.
He really just worries about America, because he wants, like you said, make America all white again.
Yep.
Yeah. And Paul, what you were saying about like a general strike, people not paying taxes and, buying very minimum, I do think that would work. I honestly think that would work, because as soon as we stop the money flow, they're all going to lose it.
I agree. And I'll do one quick thing, because I want to get to more. We have the phones up there. I understand, because you know what, I come here, I don't get paid to come on here. I come here because I care about people. I care about these callers. I care about Leonard and even Brian a little bit. Even though he's on a couch, I'm not going to shake his hand for a while. But I care about fighting for people, because the way that I grew up, I wasn't treated very good. So I always wanted to fight for the people. And this is not, I understand that people are financially struggling. Okay, I get that. I completely get it. But here's the thing. Politicians, Martin Luther King said something, he goes, a leader is not a searcher of consensus, they are a molder of consensus. Right now we have politicians and Democrats saying, vote for me, I'm not Republican. Oh, we'll fix it. That's not leadership. Leadership is telling people what they need to hear, right? So let's say you can't afford to strike. Okay, cool. Let's play this out really quick. You're on a boat with 7 days worth of food and you see the island out in the ocean, right? You can swim to it, but you're like, you know what? I'm comfortable. I'm not sure if there's food there. There might be, but I don't want to risk leaving my comfort zone. That's cool. So you sit on the boat for 7 days. You know what happens? You eat all the food. There's no more food. And by the time you go to look for the island, you've drifted away from the island after 7 days. And now you don't know where to go. And now you're stuck. So I understand, both things are true. I have compassion and I understand that people can't afford to strike. But at the same time, I'm telling you what you need to hear. Yeah, it's going to suck. It's going to suck hard.
Do you know what? Does anybody know what Gavin Newsom would do on, let's do something basic, taxes? Does anybody know his position? He said, if I get elected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 18% corporate rate. It used to be 35 during the Biden during the Biden presidency. It was 35%. Trump lowered it to 20, and now it's about 18. But what Trump did when he lowered the corporate tax rate is he punched a $2.2 trillion hole in the budget.
Yep.
So this is real simple. Why isn't Gavin Newsom or AOC or even Governor Moore over there in Maryland, who said he might think about running for president? How come they're not saying what they would do to right the wrongs for the rich on taxes? You see what I'm saying? Like what they'll say is we're going to do something and we got to stick together and we got to address this problem. Well, that's not leadership.
Well, forget all that noise. In my personal opinion, if you're complacent, you're just as evil.
Yeah, complicit to your silence. I mean, and I'll, because we got to get another call here, but I would say this, and I'll ask you this, Leonard, and this is an honest question. Is Officer, what was his name? The George Floyd officer. What was his name?
Chauvin?
Was Derek Chauvin more responsible, or the three officers stood by and watched it happen? Because metaphorically, I kind of see that very similar. The Democrats are sitting by, I know.
And let me tell you, I'll tell you a true story. When I was a police sergeant, we had someone who was high on drugs, who was driving a car crazy. We eventually had to stop him. He was pulled out of the car. And by the time all that happens and there's a chase and there's a use of force and everything is, the emotions are escalated, the officers pulled him out, and they took him down. He was a strong, muscular young guy, and they took him down and the fight was on, but they got him handcuffed. And they still had batons out and this and that. And I'm telling you what I did. Really, I stepped right in the middle.
Yep.
And I grabbed one of them by the shoulder who had a baton in his hand. And I said, "That's enough. You guys got him."
Yeah.
So, do we need more people like that in the world? And am I complicit as a sergeant if I see that guy getting beat down and I don't do something about it? And I believe they were all charged, were they not?
They're in prison.
I think they're still serving time.
Yeah, they're still in prison.
At minimum, dereliction of duty, and you could charge them with whatever Chauvin was charged with, but in a smaller role. I don't think they got the same prison sentence, but they all went to jail. So yes, they're complicit. And I think you're talking about the Democrats standing here just watching.
I
saying,
am
what can we
definitely
do?
talking
We don't
about
have
them.
we don't have the House, we don't have the Senate, we don't have the Supreme Court, we don't have the Attorney General. What do you want us to do?
Somehow McConnell held up an entire Supreme Court for 1 year in the minority. Shocking that somehow they got away with it. So, all
Thanks
right, my
for the
friend.
call. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is it time for the big? It's time.
No, he's not calling, is he?
No, it's time for the MAGA destroyer.
Oh, Darlene.
Darlene.
Hey guys, hi Paul, hi Leonard,
What's up, my
both
friend?
of two of my favorite guests.
Hi, Darlene.
No,
And listen, before I say anything seriously, I do want to say we do know. I want to know how many girls in bikinis are sitting on Brian's couch right now.
oh my gosh.
I would say somewhere between 1 and 5, but I don't know what Paul's estimation is. What do you think, Darlene?
Oof.
You can bet that couch is full. Believe me. Anyway, okay, I'm going to get serious now.
Let's get off the couch.
Back in 1982, when I had just got out of high school, and in 82, I had 4 great friends get murdered either by their boyfriend or their husband within a month and a half. So, and then I got a gun pulled on me when I was in high school.
Oh my gosh.
So I know about guns. And Leonard, tell him, Leonard, because one of my girlfriends got shot in the face with a 44 Magnum.
Oh God.
Leonard, tell him, what does that look like?
After
that happens?
I've probably seen more terrible things than any human being should see in their life, and included some terribly violent scenes. And but you know, somebody's got to do it. So I did the best I could when I was doing it. But you know that back then they didn't have the domestic violence laws either. They didn't have it mandatory that if you were convicted of domestic violence or domestic battery, you could not own a gun, and in fact could not own ammunition. That came around probably about 10, 15 years later. So the laws have gotten a little better, and that's our question today. Why can't the laws get a little better? We don't need a big chunk where everybody loses their guns. That's never going to happen. But how about some common sense legislation that makes it more difficult for people who probably shouldn't own guns to not have them? Is there anything wrong with that?
Nope.
Oh. Paul,
Yes, my friend.
I literally went to the girl's funeral that she got shot in the face. They opened up the casket. If you have never seen a face stitched back together like a puzzle, you haven't seen anything, because that's exactly what she looked like. It was just little pieces. It was terrible, and they were very close to me. And then, like I told you, in high school, I had a teenager, and I was a teenager. I had a gun to my chest. So, like I said, I can relate to you guys, and that's why I got so passionate about yesterday on the radio, because my God, you guys, that's our babies up there. That's our little children, our future. And with the Republican Party, they're going to take it and wipe it all out.
They don't care. They don't care. They're going to whitewash it, like you said, and make it seem like it was somebody else's fault and there's nothing they can do about it.
The trans people.
Thanks, Darlene.
All right, Darlene.
Have a good day, honey.
See ya. Number 5, we are going to Gary. Gary, what's going on?
Yeah, you done?
Good. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, I'm calling up about hearing all them talking about taking away guns and all that.
Yeah, who said that?
Not really.
Nobody's saying anything about taking away guns, but
Who
go
said
ahead.
that?
You guys have been implying it. It's the human heart, and I don't know what the big problem is.
You don't see what the problem
Okay,
is?
first of all, Gary, no one said anything about taking away guns. So let's be factually accurate. Let's not try to gaslight the radio hosts, okay? What we said was that there are certain people where it should be more difficult for them to get the guns. Nobody said anything about taking them away. In fact, I said that that's not even possible with over 400 million guns. But go ahead, make your point. What did they say on Fox News? Go ahead and tell us.
I don't know.
He needs some
Again,
coffee. Gary, please get some coffee. Sober up a little bit. Call us tomorrow.
They have the emotional maturity of a 7th grader. I'm telling you, they are so in need of attention. It's so sad. Who we got next, buddy? You want to go to John? Let's go to John. John, you are up. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. What's on your mind today?
Hey. How you doing, Leonard?
Hey there, John.
Hey, I got a question. I'm a Republican, and I do believe Leonard said that one day somebody's going to call in the difference between a MAGA and a conservative Republican.
Yes,
I don't know what I am, but I know I am not a MAGA. Okay. In fact, I don't even like MAGA for the simple fact that it stands for Make America Great Again. And right now we need to do that because I don't know what the hell we're in, but.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I was a Republican until 16 myself. And, I grew up in a Baptist church and I voted for McCain. I voted for Obama. Hell, I even voted for Ross Perot. I voted all over the spectrum. Okay. When listen, did I agree with every policy? No, I wasn't like really engaged. But when they started worshiping a person, like if he's a deity, how did this, do you feel like I felt like the party just left me because they literally it doesn't matter. There's no morality, right? It does a sexual assault, Epstein Island, insurrection, felonies. I mean, now they're literally covering up the Epstein files and they have armed guards. Do you feel like the party just left you?
Yes.
John, let me just ask you this, because one of the things I was trying to say is a true conservative would never vote to raise the debt ceiling on money they haven't even spent yet when there's $37 trillion in debt. A true conservative would be conservative about people's rights. They're conservative about government and how big government is and how they reach into your lives. They're conservative about who pays taxes and how much they pay and what is done with that money. And they're very fiscally conservative on where that money goes. And certainly none of them, any conservative that is fiscally responsible would want the money to go personally to the president of the United States and their family. And that's kind of where I was going. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
No, then you're a true conservative Republican.
Yeah, I listen. I don't.
He is not a MAGA.
Listen, we don't. I have no problem with different points of view, my friend. This is again. I think for me, this is me speaking as a person of faith. I care more about morality and decency than I do about policy. I mean, that's just me. I can accept bad policy. You can fix that. But the morality and decency is what I have. So let me ask you a question. Do you think, if we can we go back to the horrible thing that happened yesterday? Do you think that what we're proposing is a quote unquote infringement or I mean, we're just trying to keep kids safe, right? Would you agree that those are viable options, at least at something, or do you have a different perspective on that?
No, absolutely. I have 2 guns and I use them for self-defense and I have not had to use them. Thank God.
Yeah.
I have a shotgun.
So you're not looking
and
forward to the time when you could possibly use it. And I really appreciate you calling in, John, because this is an issue that I think needs to be spoken more clearly by the Democratic Party. They need to point out that there's a difference. There are good conservative Republican people out there and good conservative voters, but they are not MAGA. MAGA is a brainwashed group of people who will believe anything that he says is real. Even if he said the earth is flat, they'd be like, well, they said it's flat. It must be. Yeah.
All right, my friend, we got to go to rapid fire. We got full
rapid
lines.
fire. Let's go.
Sorry about that, my friend. Thank you so much for calling
Keep calling in. You have 10 seconds.
All right, let's go to Dave. Dave on line 2.
Hello.
Dave, rapid fire. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, I would just like to know what actual laws could have prevented this shooting from the transgender person that shot up the school.
Why does it matter that it's a transgender person?
Well, I'm just referencing the recent shooting. It doesn't matter. I'm just referencing shooting. What laws would have prevented it?
I haven't seen all the.
Well, he was also anti-Trump, wasn't he?
I don't
if I
know.
remember correctly.
Correct. But what laws would have prevented it? Or regulations?
Wait, is that?
We never proposed, Dave, that any type of law would prevent anything. Okay, what we're doing is we're saying maybe there's some legislation that could make it more difficult for a person like that once they were identified as someone who was suffering mentally.
Well, like what?
Maybe there's well, see, the thing is, he was only 20 or 21 years old, and so he doesn't have a history, right? He hasn't been arrested.
That's exactly my point. So, I mean, what legislation would you recommend that actually would have prevented? It's not a gotcha question. I mean, if you can
it's really not, because if you look at universal background checks and possibly holding gun store owners responsible, I think that you could make it more difficult for people like that to get. But thank you, Dave. That was a good question. Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much. All right, let's go to Daniel on line 3.
Daniel,
what's going on?
Yes. Oh, no, I did want to just kind of defend Kamala a little bit.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, because I mean, I kind of see it like, yeah, she kind of took her ball and left. But to be fair, no one has lost to a felon before. I mean, Hillary lost, but I mean, he wasn't a felon yet. Correct. January 6th didn't happen.
Well, it wasn't convicted.
I mean, she feels rejected. You know what I mean? I kind of get it.
Well,
yeah, but what about from a leadership perspective? We gave her $1 billion. If somebody gave me $1 billion, I would feel somewhat responsible to do the best I could to try to give those people, even if I wasn't elected, what they wanted through some other influence.
I completely agree with that.
And I think
I do agree with that.
If I could chime in for a second, and I think that's where I'm frustrated, right? Like, I feel like you and I and Leonard are doing more to fight this fascist takeover than the president. 75 million people voted for her. We gave her $1 billion, and she goes on a book tour, and I have to fly out. I mean, she's on vacation. I get it. She lost, but you know what? That's part of leadership.
She said on Stephen Colbert, I'm not running for anything because the system is broken. And this is from a person who got $1 billion to be a leader.
Well, yeah, and I guess this is where I'm saying is, and I look at it from this perspective, and listen, I voted for her, right? But can you imagine if the house is on fire and you see it and you're like, you know what? I'm going to go on a book tour. Like, that's what I have a problem with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get that. But I mean, she was kind of fired as the fireman kind of thing, to use that analogy. Sure. I mean, America rejected her. So I don't,
not all of us, 90 million people didn't vote.
Yeah, that too. But not voting was kind of, she killed him in that debate. She said everything that he's doing, he was going to do.
Okay.
And America's still.
Correct. Yeah. So then if she's not going to lead, Hakeem Jeffries isn't going to lead, Chuck Schumer's not going to lead, who's going to lead the Democratic Party in this time when the house is on fire?
I don't have an answer for that. Too.
Well, and even if you said Gavin Newsom, not to interrupt you, but even if you said Gavin Newsom, or you had an idea, Pritzker, whoever you like, you would have to look at them and say, okay, you want them to be the leader. What's their policy on immigration?
Exactly.
What's their policy on the economy? What's their policy on Roe versus Wade? And you know what? They don't have one. Not an identifiable one.
All right, bud. Thanks for the call. We got rapid fire. We're going to go to CJ next. CJ, you are on.
Hey, couple of things. First off, Kamala Harris, I watched that Colbert interview.
Oh yeah,
she was broken. She was like,
I could see that.
It wasn't her just taking her spirit was gone basically. Do
you think we're being too hard on her, or do we think we're being fair?
Well, no, not us so much, but she said, even said it on the air pretty much. It wasn't so much that she lost. It was the capitulation.
So, CJ, let me ask you a question, though. And this, I think this is relevant. If Kamala Harris, and I know people are going to hate me saying this, in your words, not mine, was broken so easily, was she ready to lead the United States? I mean, that's a fair question. That's an objectively fair question.
Very fair.
Yeah. Well, this is like circumstances that had never happened before, somebody losing that badly to a felon, but not just that. It's like she said, it was the capitulation of all the institutions afterwards, the media, the law firms and things that just kneeled down and kissed the ring,
including the Democratic Party.
They were threatened.
Precisely.
The institutions were threatened.
Sure.
If the law offices didn't get in line,
nobody was trying to save anything, and she felt like, oh, they're good at, and now I failed, so it's like,
what would have happened if Martin Luther King Jr. gave up?
You watch that interview again, you could see it in her.
Yeah. All right, thanks,
all right, bud. Sorry, we got two.
I'm not done yet.
Oh,
was another thing I wanted to bring up. Is okay?
Really quick, and then we got to get to the next two calls.
Earlier, one of y'all had mentioned that Obama had the Democrats had a supermajority in the Senate for Obama's first 2 years, and didn't do things like codify Roe versus Wade. That is not true. They did not have the 60 votes needed to overcome a filibuster ever during that time. They had 60 on paper only briefly after Al Franken was sworn in, which was like half a year in, and then only until Senator Kennedy died just a few weeks later.
Yeah.
And then when his replacement was sworn in, they got that majority back. But then in the next election, when his replacement was sworn in, it was Republican. They lost it again for the duration. And during that time, Senator Kennedy and another senator, I'm blanking on his name, but I should know it.
Well, CJ, let me interrupt you because Obama did say at the time. Obama did say that he regretted not going far enough And we're going to have to leave it at that. And do you want to, you got a super chat comment?
Yes. Eileen says, what troubles me is the gun nuts are getting more ammo and more guns out of fear of the government is coming for their guns, profit for. Yeah, you're right. It's this fear mongering of American exceptionalism.
Thank you.
All right, Jeff, we got a couple more calls and we got to go. We're up against the clock here, guys. Jeff, what's going on?
Yes, the way I look at the last election was that a lot of the swing states had abortion on the ballot, so a lot of women went and voted for the abortion amendments and laws in the swing states, but they didn't vote for Pamela because of the economics, and some even voted for Trump. And then Pamela said that she would do everything that Biden did, and even then the Biden supporters, old white males, didn't come out to vote for her, even though she said she would follow with Biden's policies. So
that was a mistake.
So
I agree, Jeff. That was a mistake.
Yep.
Saying that she would carry Biden's policies and not coming up with policies of her own probably costed her quite a few votes.
Yep. All right, my friend, let's get to the last caller of the day, Leonard. We have made it to the end. Eric.
Is it Brian? Oh.
It is not. Well, maybe it's Brian pretending to be Eric. Maybe he identifies as Eric. Let's find out. Is this Brian identifying as Eric?
No.
Okay.
I'm not that smart.
What's going on?
I'm going to bring up 2 quick points here, okay?
Okay.
First off, the country's in trouble when, first off, you get Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson actually making some smart points.
Yeah, I know. It's bad. It's not good. It's not good at all.
First off, you guys have ICE agents arresting firefighters in Washington State as they're doing their jobs, which I actually thought was illegal in the U.S. Keeping a firefighter from his duties.
Who's gonna prosecute? Pam Bondi? Cash Patel?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
There's nobody left.
Exactly. And then you got someone like this Joseph E. Martin trying to bring Canada in with his letter while the governor of Maine's trying to call Canada to come down to spend their money. But I don't understand why people have such a, I am on the right. I am a gun enthusiast, but up here in Canada, I'm too far with the gun stuff.
Yep.
However, I do firmly believe in gun licenses.
Yep, me too.
I firmly believe that.
All right. I hate to
you got to keep it out of criminals and mentally disabled. Like this
Jeff,
is from
you could always
former law
if
enforcement.
you didn't get to say anything, you can always call back tomorrow and get back on the air.
All right. That is it. Sorry, guys. We're at the end. Hey,
wow, that went quick.
It did. Hey, for tomorrow, really quick before we go. Tomorrow we are interviewing the knitting cult lady. We are going to talk about something I have been wanting to. A cult expert about the MAGA of Trump, how it works. Can the fever be broken? What, if anything, if he eats a cat on TV, will that break it? We're going to find out tomorrow.
Thanks to Brian Shapiro for having us, and thank you, Paul.
Thank you, buddy.
Numchuck, great job today keeping up, because it was a little wild there for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right, everyone. See you guys. PTL family. See you mañana.